of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Amen. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of death. Amen.
Amen. All right, so let's start this. Welcome, everybody, to our first episode of The Lion's Den. Today, we're going to be talking about something that every Catholic marriage should have and should be cultivating, and that is virtue, right? So I want to first talk about what is a virtue, right? And I would say it's we're actually talking about it amongst the guys, and I would say it's the practice of a good habit, and obviously putting a lot of intention towards that practice. What do you guys say or think?
Go ahead, Joel. Go ahead, bro.
So regarding virtue, I think it's a good practice. Has to do with our actions, and particularly, it's finding the right mean between two extremities. I think a lot of people regard virtue as like the opposite of something, but in reality, it's a temperate like middle. So, for example, the virtue of courage, right? The extremities that lie on either end of that virtue are courage,
Which is the middle, yeah.
That's right.
Courage is in the middle, and then on the one extremity is to be rash, right? And then the other extremity would be cowardice, to not act, right? I remember reading this book. I forgot what it was called. This from Aristotle. It's one of I can't think of the book right now, but he was actually talking about this same situation, right? And then I was seeing an example of, like, let's say there's a guy walking in the sidewalk, right? And then there's somebody getting mugged, but it was like 6 people mugging one person, right? What would be the right action to do, right? Would it be best for me to go in there and try to fight all these guys and try to save the person getting mugged, right? Which may seem like it's courageous, but in that situation, it would actually be something rash, right? Where maybe the best course of action would be to actually take a step back and call for help, call 911, right? But maybe if the same situation was happening, it was just maybe one attacker or something like that, maybe it is courageous for me to go and defend this person and help them out, right? And that would be the courage, right? Or and maybe not do anything and just kind of like cower away. There's been multiple situations where, like, maybe you're with your family and an altercation happens, and maybe at that point you have to think, okay, is my best course of action is to protect them or to like run away? And obviously, depending on the whole situation, if they have weapons or something, that running away would probably be the best thing to do than to have this fake like courage and like I'm just gonna fight this guy. You know.
You know what? I'm sorry to cut you off, but I want to say one thing about a virtue of prudence, because I think it's important when we talk about virtues in general. And then I want you to talk about this story where it was, you know what I'm talking about? I want you to tell this story because that has to do with virtues of courage. And you can either say to yourself, I acted in prudence or outside of prudence. You say that now, but basically, what I want to talk about prudence is the following. So I don't want to say specifically that prudence guides every virtue, because that's not just a fact, but it does have to do with a lot of virtues. For example, the prudence have to do with like what you mentioned right now. Like, is it prudent for me to do this? But so you're implementing in that specific case courage and prudence, right? And then let's say even when somebody, let's say, think about something else, like you need a prudence in like almost everything. Even when you're loving your spouse, you need prudence.
Right.
So for example, like sometimes like that could happen to me. Let's say my wife is going through a hardship, right? And she comes to me and she tells me what's going on. She might be a little bit fragile. She start crying, all this stuff. And prudently, I don't know if that's a word, but whatever. Is that a word?
Yeah.
Prudently, yeah.
Okay.
It could be-
Prudently, I should just, listen to her at that moment and hug her, just be there for her. Unprudent, as most of the time I have grown into understand this. By the way, this is, when you come into marriage, you have to work a lot of things that you didn't see before, and you're now facing that, so you need to figure out what's the best course of action. But basically, before I would just, try to give her like tips and oh, you should have done this, you shouldn't do that, whatever. But that's not prudent at that moment.
Such a classic guy.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, bro, but that's just where I
Where
was.
as men, we're trying to solve
Oh,
problems.
right. So I didn't use prudent there in the charity, right? I was implementing charity to my knowledge. To me, I was being charitable, like helping you out. But the prudence didn't help the charity, and the charity turns out to be just not good. So it didn't bear any fruit because I was just trying to do my way because I think that's what's best. But obviously, charity is to will the good of the other, right? So it can get blinded without prudence. Mm-hmm. Charity can be blinded without prudence, just as courageous can be blinded without prudence. So tell us about the story where you did not implement it, at least to me, prudence.
Well, I mean, to me, I believe like it was okay the way that happened.
All right, you guys judge us. Judge his story, and you tell us what you think. Go ahead.
Have I told you the story?
I don't know. There's so many stories.
This is a great story, though. This is a great story.
Like I'm surprised like you already know.
Yeah, no, yeah, because the thing is,
we talked about it a lot.
We were doing one of our pray and play dates.
I'm sorry, bro. No, that's not the one that I want you to talk. That's another one, but the one that is the biggest one is when you were in an Easter Vigil Mass, I think it was, or it was in Jesu. Mm-hmm. Remember?
That one. Okay,
that
one.
About
that one. I thought you were talking about the pray and play.
No, this one.
Oh, hey, let's hear.
Okay, because of the. Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
All right, so we were in a Catholic church, the Easter Vigil Mass, actually. Yeah. In Jesu downtown in Miami, and whatever. Me and my wife were just in the pew. We're doing our prayers, and we're waiting for the mass to start. And then out of nowhere, we just hear like, maybe not like that because that sounds like just like a knock, but it just sounded like bam, bam, right? So I thought like instantly I looked back and I thought that someone was like kicking the door of the church, right? And I was like, who's kicking that? It just sounded so loud and abrupt, right? So I looked back and then out of nowhere, this lady starts running down the church screaming, "He has a gun! He has a gun! He has a gun!" At that instant, everybody just stood up and it was just scattered.
And the temple was filled up because it was Easter Vigil, so there were a lot of people.
It was packed, right?
It's packed.
Everybody scattering, running, going crazy, right? And then my first thing is to like, I gotta get out of here. What am I doing, right? So I got up and I'm about to like, I take a few steps and I look back and then my wife, her name is Steph, she's just like frozen, just
in panic.
I'm like, babe, right? And she just looks at me slowly, right? And I'm like, let's go. And then we're like, she finally like snaps out of it, and like I was able to like carry her and grab her arm. So we're running, and then she goes, no, wait. She goes back to the pew to get her purse, right? Because ladies,
women stuff.
Yeah, they're like, I can't leave my purse here, So she goes back and takes her purse, right? And then we had like two options. Like on the left side, there was the exit. But we don't know where the gunshots came from. So going towards the left would have been like towards like the sidewalk and an opening.
To the outside.
And who knows if the gunman was like
on the street.
Like running in the street or something. And on the right side, I've never even been really on the right side, but it's where the bathrooms are and it's a dead end. Yeah. Right? So either way, it's just like terrible, But at that time I took a right? And this is the funny part because this is where you see like the people's true colors, I guess, or nature, right? There's like a downstairs part that you have to go down, right? And you make a left, and then there's two bathrooms, the women's and the men's, right? And it's so funny because all the men were going to the men's bathroom, and then all the women were going to the women's bathroom. Right? And I'm just like, what? Like, who cares? Just hide or whatever, So I'm here with my wife, like I'm grabbing her hand, and I'm trying to go to the guys' bathroom. Yeah. And then all the guys are holding the door down so that we wouldn't open it. So I'm here like, hey, come on. And all the guys are like, oh. you know. And so I have no choice but to like take her to the girls' bathroom.
Yeah.
Right. And it's so funny because the guys are all like this, and when I enter the girls' bathroom, it was like all like just
Wide open,
wide
wide open.
open, no pressure, no like nothing, you know. So I open it, and they're all in the back, like crouched in the floor, like that, all together like a little ball, right? All of them. It was like a bunch of them, right? So I go and I tell my wife, like, stay here, I'll be right back, right?
This is what I'm talking about, prudence here.
Right?
This is the point.
No, it's not. It's not even that, man. Like at that. So it's not that I wasn't being prudent. Is that I was in protective mode, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna be in the girls' bathroom cowering like
Right.
this.
What are you gonna do?
I'm not gonna be.
You're not solving it.
Bro.
So
I'm
what do
not
you
gonna
do? What do
that,
you do? Tell us what
right?
you do.
So I go outside of the bathroom, and there's like 4 guys hanging around, like kind of like there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you, right? Like we got to like a little group.
Yeah.
And I'm like, listen, if someone comes down here, right, we're gonna like jump this guy. And we're gonna like, you know, that's what we gotta do, you know.
Legit.
And the thing is, in that moment, like I'm thinking about protecting my wife, right, and for us to be like as safe as possible. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so like at that moment is I start to direct the men that were there to tell them like this is what's gonna happen. And the reason why I did that is because when you don't tell somebody what to do in those
just
situations,
freeze.
they,
Just freeze.
they don't do anything.
Yeah, they freeze.
Right? Like this is like a one-on-one on I guess safety or something, right?
Yeah.
So when you see something go down, right, you're supposed to like actually mention to somebody like you call 911.
Right.
Because
if not,
if,
they just like
if not, they're just watching and not doing anything.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't think I was not being prudent. I don't know if that was the right course of action for me to take or not.
that's what prudence is gonna detail.
But I believe that I did my best in the situation. And also remember, this is not like this is a situation that's all fast. You hear gunshots, people are screaming, so it's just in an instant.
Yeah,
You know,
I know,
I'm
I
not
know.
here like, should I do this or should I do that? You know, I'm just like, bam, act, I think, and I act,
but,
and I
but
go.
then going back to the point where you were talking about Plato, right? Aristotle,
Aristotle.
when he was talking about like, should you jump this person, right? This is kind of the same scenario in a way. I mean, you got 4 guys, no gun, they got nothing. The guy already shot something. He already shot a couple of shots, so he might have a gun still.
Right.
And there are 4 guys. What are they gonna do? The guy from far with a gun is probably gonna shoot them. So
I mean,
what do you think about prudence here?
Well, no. Well, the thing is, if you remember how Jesu is, the way it's structured, first of all, he has to walk all the way.
Yeah,
and
all the way
then
to
they
the
have
front.
They have to go down
To
and
the-
to the left.
Right.
So it's kind of like he gets cornered if
Right.
he were to go down.
If he
there.
goes down, you just jump him. Got it.
Right.
I mean, I just used that because I wanted to talk about it. You know, nothing
well,
personal.
No. You know.
Here's what
for
I'll
sure.
say about
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
You know, for one, like what brings to mind is the fact that like virtue is something that happens even though you're not thinking about it.
Because you just already have it within you.
Right. And so like
That you build up.
to a certain extent, like, you know, I do think that you had like some train of thought, right? But I think that's also part of the reason that is because you already have some sort of like virtue instilled in you, right?
Encouraging, yeah.
So and that's interesting you bring up like such an extreme scenario because like those really shed light as to whether you do or do not have virtue.
Right.
Like, cause I mean, imagine like the
Right.
men literally in the bathroom have no train of thought, but to like literally
Close the
Stop.
door, dude. Right, and I'm
opposed
here
to-
trying to take my wife in there. You know what I mean? Like,
as opposed to even just thinking like, well, let's grab an object and
Yeah.
then let's hide. And then if there's, you know, maybe I'll get a,
We're gonna
pull
take
a
the
stealth
violin.
move,
We're gonna take the violin.
you know, like what are you doing? Like
Karate
we
chop
act
'em.
so irrationally, and so like going back to like our marriage discussion.
Yeah.
Man, I think it's also like when you're married, you're put in like to some scenarios where you just like have no opportunity to think.
Right.
Like,
You have to add instantly.
I am so like sometimes, especially after a long day of work, I have like no brain cells left, and like my wife is like telling me, like I lose like everything. And I'm like trying to like figure out what the hell
wait, she's speaking to me.
but if I had virtue, right, and if I would like actually think, outside of my time at work or whatever, I'd be like, okay, well, I know that when I get out of work, I should probably be thinking about my wife, I should probably be mindful of her. What does she need, right?
Right.
And unfortunately, right, like when you're not prepared, or when you don't like carry forward those good habits, you're gonna find yourself in scenarios in marriage where you don't think, right,
and you just act like a stupid.
Habits.
You act stupidly.
Yeah.
Like a dumbass. I'm sorry.
No, as Catholic men, we're called to follow Christ's teachings, and that's including in our marriage, to go back to the topic, I think one of the things that has helped me tremendously is being like practicing being selfless, right? Because a lot of times it's always like, oh, what about me? Right. Like I do this, I do that, and also one of the first things that people think when we're talking about like virtue, like in a marriage, the first thing that they think about is patience, right?
Right.
Which it is a great virtue to practice, but the reason
selfless is way bigger.
But if you think about it, right, patience has to do about the other person,
right?
Right. It's because I'm being patient because the other person is
not being.
I just can't stand
acting
this person
out
right now. Exactly. So it's like, you know what? I want to take a step back and actually practice being selfless, right?
Right.
Like the way I think about it, right? As men, like we're the rock of the family, right? Mm-hmm. And so like with women, they're more emotional. They're more like waves. They go, But us men, we're a little bit more stable and linear and whatever, So I always have in my mind that I could take more, right? That I could do more, right? And so when there's something that my wife can't or is like feeling down on, like I'm here, because there's so much more than I can take than she can.
When it comes to selflessness, right? That's what you say, guys. As you know, I don't speak English very well, but it's what it is. Handle me, please. Have mercy. So basically, this is a great point because years before coming into marriage, I would read Corinthians, right? And my focus would be, I will be Christ to my wife as Christ is the head of the church, and as Christ died for the church in the cross, on the cross, right? That is totally not thinking about him. That is totally thinking about the salvation of the souls, right? Whereas as we are the Christ, the head of the household, and as St. Paul says, right? Be Christ of your wife, as Christ is the head of the body, the head of the body, and the body is the wife, right? And submission is another topic we can talk about later because it's not necessarily just be under me, it's be connected to my mission kind of way, submission. Right. But anyway, that's another topic. But my point is that when I look at Christ, right, that's why I like to have in this room because it's whatever room. We don't have crucifixes here, but almost in every other place. Like I have a crucifix literally next to me in my bed. Why? Because I need to look up to him every moment. Because I think if I don't act like Christ, then I'm not acting up as I should be as a husband. So when I look at Christ, right, and I think about what is love, right, I'm like, if I'm not shedding blood on the cross, I'm not loving. So that also is connected, right, to what you're saying. Like, that you can take on more because nobody else has suffered more than Christ. Nobody else, right? Aside from the fact that he tells you, if you want to follow me, pick up your cross and follow me and deny yourself. One of the things that Christ tells you, if you want to follow him, deny yourself. That's the first thing. And then he says what? Pick up your cross and follow me. So when we live in this daily denying of ourselves, practicing virtue, because we're denying ourselves, either through the things that we like to eat, that one day you're like, I'm not going to eat it. That's why Exodus 9 is great. It's great, there are great things about Exodus 9 that you should live in your life just as a regular Catholic guy. I'm sorry, too much. But that's where I always focus on Christ on the cross dying for the church, which is the wife, right? Which is the body of him. And that helps me to kind of not cope, but like to be focused into what is my calling. Because, at the end of the day, like, it's funny because Sarah always goes to me. Everybody knows who Sarah is here in this podcast. So every time Sarah goes to me and she's like, oh my goodness, babe, thank you so much. You do so much. I'm like, oh, don't, it's okay. Like, I feel amazing doing all these things for you because through this, I'm putting myself, because most of the times, if you get to choose, right? Lazy.
You're loving her, man.
Right.
That's what it is.
Yeah, but if you get to choose as a man, right? To just be chilling back and not do anything rather than sacrificing, in the natural level, as a human speaking, you show back. Now, the supernatural level, which you also live, right? Our spiritual life, you gotta do sacrifices if you want to love, right?
Right.
So yeah.
I mean, that's what love is. I mean, it's movement and action, right? Because
Yeah.
if you're just sitting back, being lifeless, just watching TV all day, and you go, babe, no, I do love you, but you're not really doing anything to show that.
Call you out, guys. Y'all who watched the Miami Heat game last night.
Oh, yeah.
just play.
It was a good game.
Yeah,
right?
it was. I just lost my train of thought.
Well, so I'll say something about action, right? And we've already brought up a lot about the Christian value and our goal being emulating Christ on the cross. But getting there takes practice, right? Everything
100%.
is practice. It's there's this notion of practicing virtue.
Yeah.
And so there has to be some sort of effort involved there. It's not something that you're gonna
Born out of like you just be born
Right.
to
It's not
I'm a
gonna be
virtuous
the-
guy. You gotta work hard. It's like
Yeah.
going to the gym,
Yeah, no, for real. It's
Yeah.
much
Muscles.
It's much easier to be lazy, man. Like I want to be lazy all the time, but I have to fight that,
Yeah, you have to fight that.
So how have you been practicing virtue? Take me through a summary of how marriages changed you and helped you gain virtue.
Yeah.
I would say it's mostly like on the little things, right? If you just remember me of the little rose, the little way, the little
Yeah.
pathway with her.
Oh,
Right. It really is those little things, right? Because those things add up and become very big, right? So it's like when my wife is tired. I'm obviously tired too. Like I'm working, right? I come out of work and the last thing I want to do is do a bunch of things.
Legit.
You know what I mean?
Legit.
So I always put in my head again, like I could do more, right? So at that time, like I'll help with the dishes, I'll help clean up, I'll help with taking Lucia and spending time with her, playing with her, right? So to give my wife a break, right? She's already been in the house cleaning, she was cooking, she was being with Lucia, and anyone that has a 2-year-old daughter knows they're a lot to handle.
Yeah.
So
how has that shifted, or has it always been easy for you?
no, it's not. None of this is easy. Trust me. Like it's so funny because sometimes I'll tell someone like, "All right, I'll do it, but I'm gonna complain the whole way."
You said that?
I said it just to mess around.
Yeah.
But one of the things like I always tell myself is like stop complaining, right?
Right.
Because even in my own head, man, I'm like complaining for everything, but like I won't say it.
Right.
But I'm like, oh no, so I gotta like pray for that because, bro,
You gotta
it's
give it up, bro. You
overwhelming
gotta give it up,
sometimes.
All the complaints.
It's just like
Isn't it boring? Don't it get you boring to be complaining so much? I think it's boring to me.
yeah, man, and so
Like just
and like
I
at the end of the day,
I
like
love complaining. I'm just kidding. Well, to a certain extent, it's a little therapeutic. Not gonna lie, it's not a good thing. Funny enough, I've also caught myself complaining a lot, especially in marriage.
no, especially when you're tired and like
Yeah.
you've done a lot, and then
Yeah.
like right now Lucia's sick, right? And when she's sick, it's just like a whole other level, right? Like right now, she's just not being obedient. She's throwing things. Just right before leaving, she I made burgers for us to eat for dinner. She grabbed the burger bun, just put it inside the milk.
Oh.
Right? And I'm just like, why are you doing that? And then like just kind of throws it out. I'm just like, why are you
my-
making my life harder?
dude, that is something crazy, dude.
But I mean,
You gotta
it's
laugh
just,
right there.
it's just those little things,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And they
yeah.
start to add up. And the thing is, like, if you're not praying,
Yeah.
right? Like those things are gonna get to you, and you're not gonna be able
You're gonna
to
explode.
right. Or you're gonna start getting ticked off, and then maybe like say something to
Being
your wife
rash,
about
yeah.
it, and be rash, and
Yeah.
just maybe say something you didn't mean. Sometimes I could see myself like regañando like Lucia in the wrong way sometimes,
Right.
and then I have to go and like apologize, like so it just prayer is actually just a very
has to be,
important
yeah.
thing, right? And the thing is, I think by doing those tiny little things, it helps you really just stay even and hard and also, I mean, going to the gym, that helps me
That helps you.
tremendously. Like especially let off some steam, right?
You bring
all
testosterone.
the energy and testosterone that I got in there, just take it out into the weights,
Yeah,
It also helps me push myself, and if I could push myself physically and like, to the limit, right? It helps me with my discipline. It helps me in my spiritual life as well, you know. So I think all those things really help and has really worked for me very well, because I can't complain, right? Like I believe I'm in a very joyful marriage, right? And the opposite, what you hear over there is just like, oh, don't get married. Don't get married. It's gonna be crazy.
Dude, there is a guy.
My own friends that are not in the faith have told me that.
Bro,
you know?
There's a guy in my job. There's a guy in my job. Wedding anniversary. He said, oh, today's my wedding anniversary. There's like 5 women there eating with us and like another man. And everybody just like quiet. And I said, what? Congratulations, bro. And he's like, it's nothing to be congratulated. I'm like, oh my goodness.
Oh,
That's what to the level we're talking about. Jose, thank you, bro. Thank you for sharing, bro. So tell us, Jose, what's your experience in the same question you asked to Gabe, whereas how have you worked in virtues in your marriage, and what have been those virtues, and give us some examples.
To be honest, before I got married, I thought like marriage was gonna be so easy for me, because to be honest, I thought I would be.
He was confident. He was like,
"No,
I'm the exception."
I have all the virtues. No, legit. Like,
so human.
I'll be super honest and I'll say, like,
humble guy.
Man, I thought marriage was gonna be easy because I'm just the kind of person to be super chill, you know, like. And I was walking into marriage like I didn't really have much interpersonal problems. Like, most of my problems, if anything, were just like personal. Right. But I never had problems with people, because I didn't have to live with them that much. I mean, you know, like. But then I started, you know.
Are you living too much with your wife?
I was thrown into a world when, like, the first couple months of marriage, just because, not to say that, you know, we had crazy fights.
But you just didn't expect it.
It was actually there was a lot of fighting. I'm not gonna lie, like.
Yeah, that's fine.
And it was just because we were like, there's something about caring, right? Right. And caring too much, that's also maybe a lack of virtue. Where we start caring.
Because for what reason you're doing it? For what reason, right?
Right. What are you caring for, right? Are you caring for the person, or are you caring about the way you want to live your life, and you're trying to drag someone else along? Right. With that, you know. So, I think, you know, marriage has helped me a lot regarding just having a bit more compassion, having patience, especially with you know, time, and sometimes I'll enter a conversation and I'm like, you know, as a man, I'm like trying to have like the logical solution and I already know exactly what the answer is. Right. But then, you know, with my wife, I'll have to kind of convince her, and I have to like I just want to convince her already, and like, come on, like, don't you see it? Like, the
so
way
clear, straight.
Yeah. So, you know, marriage has helped me in that
so
sense.
Logical.
Look at me.
If you add 2 + 2 is 4. Don't you see that?
Yeah. Right.
It's not 5.
But, you know, especially early in my marriage, I realized, like, man, even just a matter of like letting go and just, you know, doing things her way. Sometimes, even if it's just a matter of like, you know, having unity or doing something for the sake of unity.
And you got to pick your battles, right? So it's like some of the things, sometimes I have to think to myself, wait, how much do I really care about this?
I care about everything. I am always right.
How is this really going to make a bigger fat or something?
Right, and then I'm like, you know what? It's actually not that big of a deal.
It's
Fine,
like stupid. Like, don't put 2 scoops of sugar in the coffee. Just put 1. Like,
oh my goodness. I've had the most stupid fights. Like, even just like the way you mop. Like, my wife had like, oh, you do it in sections and quadrants. And I'm like, no, I get spot cleaning. I'm trying to get down and done.
You're doing section and quadrants.
Oh my goodness, it's just been.
It must go straight side and diagonal. What?
Yeah.
If not, it's not getting clean, you know, you're leaving germs behind.
Right. But like with marriage, I was pleasantly surprised, right? Like to realize that I have so much to grow in.
Amazing.
And so much virtue to actually practice.
Humbleness kick in.
It's so humbling to be married and to live your life with someone and, you know, live it in unity and seeking unity, and to be a sign of Christ and His unity with the church that you know, we have to work with, you know, and obviously we have different. We have what's called the Church Triumphant, which is completely united with Christ. Yeah. We're in the Church Militant, right? We're in the early stages of marriage with Christ, and trying to figure it out and actually learning to listen to him.
Yeah.
And church purgatory. they're starting to learn their lesson, but
Yeah.
I think that's part of marriage and learning to grow in virtue.
What about in your marriage, Edwin?
Bro, as some of you that were watching, they might know, I got engaged when we were 6 years old already, like going out together as boyfriend, girlfriend. Then 2 years of preparation, but basically we're just waiting for her to get graduated, for her to graduate. And I mean, we were 21-year old, 22 years old, so there was none of that big of a rush. I just I want her to be at peace because she wanted to finish her BA in teaching. So great, we did that. So we waited 2 years to get married. So we got married. Through the process of marriage, we're not going to talk about that, but going into marriage in and itself, I mean, we've been knowing each other for so long, which is something at least between you and I and our marriage, it's very different because you met it for a year, right? For a year and something.
You were with your girlfriend for many of years before.
What you are like in the middle. You had like 5 years, right? About that?
No, we're 3, 4.
3, 4 years before you got married, right? But at least just 3, 4 years is pretty good.
So yeah, so 3 as boyfriend girlfriend, 1 year as
right. So
engaged.
4 years before marriage.
So it's like so 4 years before marriage.
I had 8 years before marriage.
Right.
So we grew up together like from 15 years old. So we knew each other very well. So I knew what I was going into. And not
you still did it?
this is not something to be ashamed of, but like for example, I hope that you're okay with this, babe. But basically, like she was scared of marriage because she didn't have anybody around her that ever been married. Nobody, like from neither the mom side or the dad side, nobody ever has ever been married. Neither by the church, neither in the civil life, like union, nothing like that. So she was very scared of that because she didn't know what that looked like. Now, I come from a broken family where my dad cheated on my mom. Shout out to you, Dad. And after 13 years straight, like holy marriage, where we were like this beautiful, holy family for everybody around us. The only Catholic marriage between the two families. Even though in the both sides they were married, but not necessarily by the church and stuff like that. Going into the marriage, I knew what marriage was about. I already getting closer a lot to Christ, and I was already like straight to Christ. So it kind of felt like what you said, where I thought that I had everything under control, even though I didn't fall so hard like you did, because we've been knowing each other for so long.
Years, right.
But when it got into marriage, one of the graces that I experienced from the moment that I say I do to her in the altar, it's like I felt like a huge presence coming over me, and I felt like the grace over me, and I didn't know what that meant at that moment. But going to 2 months, 3 months married, I found myself to be more loving, more patient towards her. Because before that, I was not that patient. I was less patient with her. But when I got married, not through my own work, but through the grace of God, I become to be more patient towards her. And she really needed it because we went through the worst, not between us, but like our professional life turned out really crazy. And that got us into depression and stuff like that. So I had to be there for her a lot. And that helped me to love more. So one of the virtues that I learned in marriage is like charity, like what is to actually love somebody. Like it's not for your gain, like I loved her before we even got married, not because of our social interaction or like, likeness, whatever. But like because I love her because she's a daughter of God and she has amazing virtue, and I love even her flaws. That you love her
for everything that she is.
Right, exactly, like the whole, right? But going to marriage, like I didn't know exactly how to necessarily love in every detail. So like I mentioned before earlier, it's like she would come to me, and until one day she decided to tell me like, listen, I don't want you to tell me what to do or what should have done. I just want you to listen to me.
Yeah.
I said, why you didn't just say that before?
It's like I have a million times.
Listen, one of the things that I've liked for my wife to do is like tell me where I'm wrong, because now am I gonna get it like very chilling from the beginning? Not necessarily. But I've grown into, even when we're fighting, if she's telling me something that is appealing to truth in my intellect, I humble down. Like I got into that point where like even if we're fighting in an argument about two different ideas or two different whatever, if you're telling me something that I know for a fact that is something logical and true, I just quiet myself like I'm just talking trash, she's right. And then I say I'm sorry right away. Now most of the times that's not the case. But
Most of the time I'm right.
but one of the things that I've loved the most, because being married has made me the happiest man ever alive,
Yeah.
at least in my lifetime.
Me too.
Like I am the most happy man ever being married, because it forces me to love and understand what love is, and I also receive love. And I can see Christ in our life. And like just what you said, it's a joyful marriage. Like most of the times we are mostly laughing about things and like just enjoying ourselves. But one of the things that I've grown a lot, like legit, is literally like whenever something is happening, not like be reactive. Just like keep it calm, think about it, and then talk. Because, bro, most of the times in my head, I'm like, this is so stupid. Like, what are you talking about? But in my head, I'm like, what? I'm not gonna say that. You know, I'm gonna go like, it's okay, you know, like let's think about it another way, you know. So now, before we got married, this is totally the grace of God. Before I got married, I would just react. I didn't care. But after we got married, like it's either also the virtue to like I want to love her as Christ loved the church, but also the grace of God, because you can do nothing without the grace of God, right? Always grace has helped me to kind of not be reactive to everything. Even when she spikes up and like go crazy, or even when something happens around us that is not necessarily between us, like what I practice in my marriage has helped me to live my life outside of my marriage in a better way. Because even when things happen around me, I don't just like react and be like, oh, what are you doing? I'm like, okay, let me think about it. Because most of the times our brains just fast thinking, and most of the times it's not necessarily good. You know, so it has helped me to filter my thoughts and to say exactly, or not exactly, but to say the best way I can do. Now, that's 8 out of 10. The other 2, I fail. I gotta be honest, you know?
Yeah.
There's sometimes where it's like little by little, it's too much, and then I break.
Yeah.
You know?
I feel like,
But yeah.
oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna ask, like, give me an example.
Oh,
Not to like put you on a spot.
what do you
or
mean?
anything, but like, what's something that you can work on that you know that you're
even
still
that,
working on,
even
maybe
that, like
in
we should be a 10 out of 10 when it comes to reacting towards something, because we can, number one, we don't have the emotional craziness, we don't have the hormones that get us crazy, and that there's not much you can do about it as a woman. That's a big challenge for a woman. Like,
Yeah.
whatever women can like control their hormones reactions, they just saint born saints, because that's very difficult, because it's chemicals in your brain and stuff like that. But right, so I will say that I want to get to that 10%, to that 10 out of 10, because I will avoid a lot of like hurting and fighting also, because I believe we as men, we're called to like be just the sponges of these problems, right? And like sometimes, you know, like it's not to excuse them, because that's something you also have told her, like, do not excuse yourself acting this way just because you know that you're going through chemical changes. Also be aware, like, you can try to overcome that, not just fall back and just take advantage of that, because a lot of women do that. And that sucks, because and that way they're just being selfish, because they know they're controlling through that. So that's something that, you know. So what I do is like, when I do 8 out of 10, what I do is like, maybe she doesn't have the reason, but I just listen, you know, keep it calm.
Right.
And then later on, when everything is chill, then we talk about it. And there have been so many times where we sit down and talk about virtue. Like, you know, like if we want to get to sainthood, we need to grow in virtues. Like, you know, like, don't just expect me to be virtuous man. You also got to work in your virtues life as a woman, as a wife.
Right.
And that's not to say that I don't love you. That's to say that I love you so much that I want you to see that, because at the end of the day, like, you want to be happy, because when they do something bad to you, they feel bad. Even though at the moment, they just like,
Right.
but they feel bad. So like, if you help them after the problem is out, at the, you know, like 2 hours later, an hour later, they appreciate that. And that's something that I've loved so much in my marriage, that we can listen to each other very well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very important thing to how you're saying like we're trying to like solve problems all the time.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like fun.
Yeah. For whatever reason, like anytime like Steph would come to me with like some sort of problem, like babe, just do this or whatever, like and that's it.
Just
You know?
You do the same, right? Even you, because
But yeah, since they have way more like they're going through like all this emotional stuff,
Yeah.
right? They want us to just listen and be more sympathetic.
Yeah.
And so it's so funny because at first when I was going to the and through the faith, right? When I was first entering this path of God, right? I remember like I was like, why don't I have like these feelings? You know, I'm like a psychopath or something. Like I'm like a cold like a stone cold killer or something. You know, I'm like I just don't have these feelings. You know, and like I would even like confess that. You know,
what would you confess? Hey, can you gotta be vulnerable here. If you want people to connect and actually see how God can work through your life, what is it that you confess, bro?
No, I would just confess that like why like do I not feel like I like not that like, I don't care, right? It's just like I just don't have these like these emotions of like, oh, I'm very very happy now. Oh, I'm very very sad now. I'm just like, oh, like this. I'm just kind of like, yeah, I'm good. Yeah. You know, I'm just good throughout the whole time.
I remember, bro. You're like, I'm good.
You know, so I would confess, and I remember the priest. He was like, "You're just a guy," you know. And I'm just like, "Oh, all right."
You're good. Is that what I am?
Right? And then like I felt much better from that for whatever reason. I was just like,
so kind of relief.
I don't have to be like this other thing that I'm trying to be. I'm just gotta be me.
Yeah, exactly,
you know?
exactly.
And I remember talking to Fed, right, which is one of our friends' dad, right.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. Who's
Pray
passed away, right? And I remember I was going through the same issues, right? I was trying to figure out like my wife, or she was my wife, she was my girlfriend at the time, right? And I remember like speaking to him, and he's like, "Listen, man, if I had to figure out everything that my wife would say and feel and do, like I would go crazy." He literally told me that, and I was just like,
"He's a great man, bro. He was a great man."
The reason why I say this is because this guy's like a saint, you know, and for him to say something like that, bro, made me feel like, oh, this guy's like a human too. Like this guy's just a man too. Like he's just normal. You know, like sometimes like I would see Fed and I would make him like, wow, because he's such a
full of grace.
He's a very holy man. Yeah. You know, and so when he told me that, it made me feel so much better, and I think also made me help me to just kind of like chill for a little bit, understand my wife, and just kind of sit back and just listen to her. Sometimes I'd be like, babe, is this something that you need me help with, or you just want me to listen? You know,
great.
And then she would just be like, I just want you to listen. I'm like, great, just go ahead. And
it's better, right?
And it's so funny because I'll sit, I'm like, I have 30 solutions for your thing, but like I can't even say anything. I'm just like,
it's so hard.
I know, baby.
A little hugging,
you know,
some
like
kisses in the cheek.
It's all right, you know,
in the forehead.
Yeah, and that's that sometimes that's what she wants, you know. Yeah. Sometimes she will tell me like she's trying to find some sort of solution, and like I'll give her a few or something like that, right? But it's just so important. It's so important to, like, when she's talking, that we're actually listening. Right. Actively listening. And then not only that, it's like to reiterate what they said, right? So that they know that you understood what she said.
I suck at that, bro.
Right?
Wait, you guys do that?
Yeah, I do that. Yeah. So
I suck at that, bro. I hate to repeat things back.
What?
But I'm gonna grow to it.
That's like next
Thank
level,
you, bro.
game.
Thank you.
No. So I do that because there's no misunderstanding that,
right?
Because sometimes she's like, no, you don't understand or something.
Oh, you don't listen to me. You didn't listen.
So I'll go on and say, okay, so what you told me was blah 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 blah, and she's like, yeah. Right. Well, blah 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 blah. You know, and the thing is, like, I don't think also like fighting is necessarily like a bad thing. Right, it's okay to have conflict. Right. It's arguments. The way that we do it. Right. Now, if you're disrespecting her and you're saying, "Oh, what the heck, you're this, you're that, whatever," that's obviously the wrong way, right? But if like you're talking through it, I think that's okay, right? Like, a lot of times you see when a marriage is dying when you don't fight.
Yeah, right? That's weird.
Right? When like and when not not to say like sometimes you go through these spurts of not fighting because everything's just going and clicking and going very good.
Yeah.
I'm not talking
the
about
hormones
that.
like well
Right.
put.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like there's something wrong and they did something wrong and
And they just don't talk about
and
it.
you just don't even you forget
Right.
about it, like
you
know,
put it back in
whatever.
your pack or
Right,
something.
and then they'll tell you something or they like they argue for like a second and then like all right, whatever, and then they'll just leave,
Yeah, that's
so
not good.
the moment that you stop fighting, you're not fighting for your marriage anymore,
Right.
That's
and
true.
how you were saying,
One of
because
the most
when you
dangerous
care
things.
about something,
To love.
right, you fight for it.
Yeah, yeah, so true.
And that's with anything, right? Like if you, when you know a topic very well,
Yeah.
right, it could be whatever topic, and then I come to you and let's say your topic, I don't know why this came up, but let's say it's pornography, and you know about pornography and stuff, and I'm telling you, no, it's not this and that. You're gonna be like, no, it's because of this and that and this and that. You're gonna fight for it because you know your things, right? And you have a passion for it, right? So when you have a passion for something, you're gonna put all your effort into it. You're gonna fight for
What
it.
if
You're gonna
let me put you in this situation, right? Because I've done this so many times, at least in the last year. So whereas like maybe I'm super tired, like I'm done, like work was crazy, my family was crazy, stuff like that, right? Where you're just like done, like your brain still was like dead, what he said.
yeah.
And let's say she brings up a fight, or like something, like something happens, and then you legit, at least that's what I do. I want to hear what you guys think, and I'm not just like, okay, it's okay. Like, can we talk about it later? I do that because I know if we're going to right now, I don't
it's not
have
gonna-
any good juice to
Yep.
go through this.
You're-
Like I'm probably just gonna
you're
fall
running
very
the thin
bad.
line already.
Yeah, so I'm
Right.
like, but the thing is that sometimes they will feel like you just don't care.
Right.
So that's a problem, bro. It's like you're trying to help the situation by understanding where you are, what I'm at right now. I just trying to confront it right now because I don't have good juice within me right now because I'm dead. But then they will feel like you don't care, like what you said, right? You
Right.
fight for what you care. But even if you say like, can we talk about it later? It feels like you're trying to avoid the problem.
Right.
So what would you say then? Because it's kind of
So-
complex.
I've done both, right? And I think it has to do with also your partner, right?
Right.
For me, like I'm not the type to like put it away too much, right? Like for the most part, I'm blessed.
What about an hour?
I have like a lot of energy.
Right. Oh, great.
So
great.
like for me to be like exhausted,
Yeah.
it takes a lot actually.
Oh, that's
you
great,
know?
bro.
So especially
the jeans.
especially that like I'm in the gym a lot and I'm
Right.
so
Yeah, Tiff, yeah.
for the most part I have a lot of energy,
Great, bro.
there will be some times that
Yeah.
I don't, but typically if let's say I was exhausted and she wants to
Go
say
through something.
something, right? I guess it really depends on what it is, right? Because
Yeah.
if it's something where it's like, oh babe, like you keep leaving the towel on the floor,
That's stupid stuff. We're talking about like big stuff.
right? So if something like that, I'd be like, all right, babe, no, don't worry.
Of
Like,
course,
I'll
yeah.
go pick it up, But if it, no, you pick it up.
You
That's
pick
so-
it up, okay?
That's the wrong thing to say. Okay, so no, if it's something that's very big, I think I would take that route, right? Whereas like, oh babe, like right now I've had an exhausting day, right? I'm not trying to ignore you, or I know this is very important to you, but if you can, we can please like talk about this.
So
tomorrow.
assertive
Right.
talking.
Yeah.
Yes.
And because it's something big, and like she'll know too, right? Like
Right.
like depending on how her day it went,
Yeah.
like I'll also mention like about her days. Like you're also really exhausted. This is probably not gonna end well,
Right.
Let's talk about this tomorrow when we wake up and we have some
right,
some little
right.
bit more energy, and for the most part is that I'm so proud of Steph because she's gone a long way as well, right? If you guys know her, and she's like very alpha female, right?
Yeah,
she's
she is.
strong. She's a strong woman,
yeah. She has a lot of insights and do everything.
right? So she's a very strong woman, and so the thing is, I have a strong character too, but I'm very like I'm a little bit more laid back, I would say, right? So if we're in the wrong moments, we will bump heads and we'll clash, and we'll clash hard, So she's gotten to a point where like she's come from, and I don't want to like speak for her, but just she's come from like the feminist, like, oh I'm gonna do all these things, to now like how God has changed her completely, where now she wants to be a mom and she wants to be a stay-at-home mom, and she's like, oh, this feminist thing is like a disease and all this stuff, right? Which is another topic for you guys. For another day.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So she's come a long way, and I think one of the things that has helped her was trust in me, right? And the reason why is because she has a trust in me, right? It gives me the ability to be able to lead right? And to be able to really set the tone on things, right? So when a situation like that happens, and I'm not saying like she like Sarah doesn't.
No, don't worry about it. No, it's a good point because he also works like that too.
Yeah, so I'm not saying that at all. I'm just talking about like
no, don't worry. My wife trusts so much in me that she doesn't make any decisions.
Right.
Like, hey, you say whatever we do it.
Right. So
I'm like, okay.
So that's at least was helped us a lot, right? And she's kind of like calmed down so much where now it's like, okay, babe, like you say this, and so this is what.
That's amazing, bro.
Right?
Because I know Steph.
You know how Steph is.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
She's just,
that's crazy, dude. I didn't know none of this.
So I've actually like thanked her about that because like sometimes we'll talk about like how we've evolved and gotten better and stuff like that, right? And I've always
it's amazing, bro.
I've always thanked her for that.
It's amazing.
You know, because in the beginning of our relationship, it was tough, man. It was tough, right? Because especially like before God, right? BC, before Christ.
Before Christ,
right?
BC.
So I was like crazy and like I wouldn't get anything. Like in my previous relationships, right? Like it was very hard to contain me type of thing. Right. You know, I was a lot to handle.
A wolf.
and so here comes my wife or my girlfriend at that time that has the ability to like be like, whoa, not with me type of thing.
You chill down, okay?
Yeah.
Is that why you married?
Yeah. It's so funny because look, how we were talking about this before, right? When we were saying that you're with Sada for 8 years. Yeah. And she was scared of marriage or whatever. Yeah. Right? I was the type that said, I'm never gonna get married. Oh wow. Right? Like it's not for me. And with my ex, people would be like, "Oh, you've been with her for 4 years. Like, are you gonna like marry her?" And I would be like, "Yeah, right."
Thank God you didn't though,
bro. That was my mentality, right?
You're like,
then when I met Steph, right, and before we were boyfriend and girlfriend, we were just talking as friends and getting to know each other. Yeah. Right. I told her if she ever gave me a chance, she would be the girl that I married. Wow. Right? I told her from that before we were even a boyfriend and girlfriend. Wow. You know?
When you were talking.
Yeah, and she gave me that chance, and yeah, like now we're married, you know?
Praise the Lord.
I already thank God. Right? I already knew, man, like the type of that she was, I was just like, you're special. And I want you.
I want you. Nobody else.
But yeah, man. I think that's something that's helped us in our marriage is really that trust that she's put in, and her, you know, being I guess submissive, a little bit more submissive, which is how you're saying, being under the same mission as the man. Which, if you think about it, right, like who wouldn't want to be submissive to like Saint Joseph, for example, right? Like who wouldn't? Like what woman would say like, no, Saint Joseph, not. Yeah. You know that guy is gonna treat you like the best thing ever, right? Right. So it's same thing. Like if we're gonna sacrifice ourselves, like how Christ sacrificed himself for the church, right? Look at what that sacrifice looked like, right? And that is what we are to our wives, right? And so if they know that we're willing to be like that, right? Who's not gonna want to go into that, right? She'll be like, yeah, go, you know.
And that will be another topic why people do not want to get married today, and that has to do a lot with that because the man is not willing to do that, and the women, even women that are in the world, they're looking for kind of something who also like that, right? Like something that appeals to kind of like that sacrifice.
Just this. What was it yesterday? We're setting up for Levi's room.
Right.
We're having a second.
Amazing.
The boy on the way. Yeah. Right. And we're listening to just like random music, cleaning music, and this song comes up, right? I think it was. I want to say it was like Jennifer Lopez or something, you know. But it was like this like a house song, right? And it was like, oh, I'm not gonna do your laundry. I'm not your mama, right? And I'm like, what? And that's the feminist mentality, where it's like, I ain't gonna do anything for you. Like I ain't your mom, right? You do you, I do me, right? And that is never gonna work in a marriage.
I don't think we gotta talk about man cave
because a marriage is the willing, the good. willing the good for the other.
Yeah,
Right. And
for the
it's
sake
all,
of God.
and it's all self-sacrifice.
For the sake of God. Also, tell us. I mean, what kind of like last message you want to talk about here in this? I love this podcast. I love this topic. I think we did an amazing job because number one, iron sharpens iron, right? And the things that you share about your marriage has taught me. I'm sure like vice versa between the three of us. We're missing Chesco. Chesco, hopefully you'll be here next time. I mean, you're having a lot of fun right now, but anyway. So Chesco, so also what can you tell us?
No, I think, for all honesty, I'm kind of lost for words. We had a great discussion about virtue as it pertains to marriage. Great takeaways given by my man Gabriel over here and my man Edwin over there. I hope you guys enjoyed our conversation. If you liked this, make sure you press the like button, smash the bell for notifications. We have much more coming your way. I mean, there's much more to be said about growing a virtue as it pertains to, whatever place in life you're at. So we'll welcome
definitely
you into that discussion next time.
Yep.
Yeah, hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It helps us grow. Thank you.
Thank you.